Hi, it's Art, short for Artemy, and you can find me at CU Artist pretty much everywhere. So in today's video, I am doing the kind of free writing stuff I had been talking about, just to kind of get ideas out onto paper and try and write through some of the thoughts I was having. This step is what made me kind of realize what I was talking about a couple days ago with I do need to focus on individual characters throughout the story, but I do want to finish working on the outline I was working on in the first place. So I figured today would be a great day to respond to another comment from Dandy Vandy. They asked how I consistently come up with ideas and write, and I think I might split this into two parts because there's definitely different steps for coming up with completely new ideas from ideas in the same story that I've been working on for over 10 years. Honestly, I would say I don't consistently come up with new ideas. I am not constantly writing, though there are definitely chunks of time where I am doing a lot more writing than others. But with comics, I'm far enough in the basic idea of the story that I have the ability to actually start doing the beginning, so I'm not constantly writing all of the time. But even when I am doing more writing, I do definitely find that there are some weeks where I do just have to let ideas kind of steep. And I think that is completely normal. But there are times when I am done with just kind of waiting and I do really want to get the next chunk of the story out there. But sometimes you need to replenish your creative tank and consume some media and realize the things that you like about that media and kind of apply it to your own stories. And by media, it doesn't even have to be anything similar to the same genre that you're writing. I really like to listen to historical podcasts or things about science, and that can really add some flavor into whatever you're writing. I am writing a fantasy comic, but I definitely have a lot of things kind of flavored with science. I have multiverse theory happening a little bit in my comic, and so there's I have done a lot of research about how space works and creating this kind of how it would possibly vaguely be anything scientific, and so it's really helpful to listen to things about science. But if it feels like I am just at a certain point putting off the next segment of the story I need to write, then I either sit down and I ask myself a bunch of questions about what is getting me stuck, or I will talk to my partner, explain where I am in the story, and usually that will kind of give me an idea of what the problems are. One of your steps, honestly, should just be rereading what you have already. You can get immersed into the story again, which you might realize some things while you're rereading what you have already, and that can both inspire you to create the next part and also maybe fix something that you're stuck on, as well as get you excited for what you already do have. And that is definitely really important to be able to have that energy to continue writing. So I guess if you don't have an ending in mind, it would definitely be more difficult to have those ideas. So kind of thinking about what is the ending I want for these characters if you're doing a character-based comic. There's definitely a lot of different advice depending on if you're doing a more slice of life or a diary comic. That's not what I have as much experience in. But I definitely feel you in it just feels like the idea juice is not coming fast enough. My tips would definitely be, if you need a break, try and consume some other content, replenish your mental well of creativity, reread what you already have. I have a folder on Google Drive that has the most finished of each page, so it has the finished pages, the rough drafts, and then thumbnails, and then scripting, depending on which is the most prepared. And that really just gives you a sense of, this is going to be something, so I have the motivation to continue doing the writing and have the desire to write more. Either talk to somebody about where you are and if you feel stuck somehow, or write it out and just kind of write any possibility that comes into your mind. That's kind of what I'm doing in the video here. Or if you don't really have an ending in mind, it might be smart to kind of think about the characters that you have and what would be a satisfying endpoint for them. And with the beginning and end in mind, you might be able to kind of fill in the gaps in between that and be like, okay, so this is where I want this character's journey to end. What points do they need to hit to satisfyingly get to that point? And then kind of doing that for every character and building that up. But like I said, definitely very different depending on what genre of comic you're doing. And also this is more so if you are doing a bigger story and you're already in the middle of it. I will also talk about just shorter comic ideas, how I come up with new ones, hopefully tomorrow. Another option that I tend to do is just kind of daydreaming about the characters. If I'm really stuck with something, I will just kind of have scenarios playing out in my mind while I'm doing a task that doesn't require a lot of brain power, and just kind of walk through those options in my head. Get yourself in the shoes of a character and kind of be like, okay, what would happen? That is definitely what I did after I reached what I thought was going to be the original endpoint for the comic. I was like, okay, I wrote this script for everything, but what would happen after she was under a sleeping spell for that long? What would she do? Like, where would this lead? And then asking those questions and kind of putting myself in the shoes of Kavot after this whole story had taken place really made me like, okay, that could be interesting, that could be fun. And just kind of going where my mind wandered. And that can definitely, you're gonna get some bad ideas, but just getting a bunch of ideas and then kind of figuring out which ones feel the best is definitely another option. But yeah, those are my tips. And then I will come back tomorrow with some talking about how I have created just entirely new sets of characters, because it has been so long since I started Faragon that there is not a concise, sensical way of how I started the story. Well, I mean, kind of, but it has just grown so big, it isn't a great example of coming up with completely new ideas. So, yeah, I think this is definitely more of what you were asking, but if there is more specifics that you want to know, or if I answered the wrong question, let me know. And just a reminder that this is just like what I would do personally. There's a ton of writing advice, so if none of this resonates with you, there's so much out there to look for. Yeah, thanks for listening. I hope to see you tomorrow.